Hello everyone, this is Maureen and welcome to my crochet story where I share with you the two things that I love, teaching and crochet. Today it is all about the second stitch in my basic stitch series that we call the half double crochet. Now it only takes one extra little loop, and if you practiced your single crochet you're going to find this stitch to be a cinch to learn. Now, as I told you in the very beginning, every time we learn a new stitch, there's going to be a project that helps you not only to practice that stitch, but gives you something to show off once you're finished. So, what we're going to be making with our half double crochet stitch today is a little ear warmer. Now see how pretty that is, and it is only using one stitch, and it doesn't take any time at all to make. These you can whip out several in an afternoon in all different colors. Once we get to playing with variegated yarns and different weights of yarn, you're going to find this a very nice, quick little project that you can whip out, give as a present, keep your girlfriends, your little girls, your big girls, even yourself, in something nice and fashionable to wear. So, all we're going to need is our yarn. Remember, you want a soft pastel looking color, not anything dark right now because you're still learning your stitches and you want to be sure that you can see your stitches as you're crocheting. We also need our size J aluminum hook so that whether you're a pencil crocheter, a knife crocheter or a pencil crocheter, it's light, it's not heavy on the hands, and it's very easy to work with our stitches. So, if you're ready to practice your half double crochet stitch, let's grab some yarn, make this little beauty, and get started. You'll see the little intermission button pop up while we both gather our materials, and then we'll get started. See you in a minute. All right, now I hope that you have your worsted weight or 4-weight yarn ready to go. You'll notice that mine is the same color that you saw in the first series of the Basic Stitches series, or the first lesson. I am still working off of this skein because I just believe in using up what you have. I am still working with my size J hook. Alright, so in this tutorial, as I said, we're going to be learning how to make the half double crochet. Now this is one of my most favorite stitches. It's my go-to whenever I am looking to bridge between rows. I find it to be quick and easy. It's a nice filler stitch. So let's just get started learning how to do it. Now I hope that you remember how we tie on our yarn to our hook. Now remember, I did tell you you can just lay it down, put your hook over it, and just knot it like you would any other string. If I can get it through there. Come on. Alright, just tie it and then knot it again. Or we can use our left hand to help us make a knot to go onto our hook. Remember that we loop it over, make a cross in the back, 2 parallel lines on the top, go under the first, pick up that one from the back, pull our fingers around and pull both. Drop that tail and pull your lead string. All right. I hope that when you were practicing with the chaining and the single crochet stitch that you found a way that was comfortable for you to make your tension consistent. Remember, I showed you that there are so many different ways in which people will crochet. And as I told you, there's just one way that I can put my yarn in the tension mode so that I can work it with my hook. So my way is to loop around the little finger, go across the top of the middle, loop around my index, and then hold my yarn. So we're going to learn the half double crochet by working on a project this morning. So I'm going to ask you to crochet, or to chain 60 chains. Now remember that a chain is the very basic of all stitches, and I do call a chain a stitch because we do use it in our projects whenever we're making other stitches. So to me, it is considered a stitch. So remember that we just hold our yarn, our hook, take your hook, loop it over, pull it through, and there is our first chain. Do that again. Reach around, pull your hook, grab the yarn, and pull it through. There's 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to stop just a moment because what I want you to see, especially for me, that I know that 4 chains using a 4 weight and my J hook for my tension equals 1 inch. And you're going to find for yourself, especially when you need to adjust, like making a hat or a garment, a wearable, that you can over time learn how to adjust your patterns by knowing how many stitches for yourself with the yarn and the needle that you're using will equal 1 inch. Now I know that these 4 chains are going to be approximately 1 inch, and I'm going to show you that by using my tape measure here. I'm just going to lay this down for a minute, and I'm going to choose the numbers 7 and 8, and I'm going to show you that I'm just going to lay this chain on here. And so from chain number 1 to chain number 4, that is approximately 1 inch for me. So I know 4 chains, and by the time I work in my first stitch, that's going to tighten it up just a little bit, and it will be 1 inch. So like I said, for me, 4 chains will equal 1 inch. So for the little project that we're going to be using to help us practice our half double crochet, you're going to need 60 chains, which should equal approximately 20 inches. So I already have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me get my yarn back onto my hook. Straighten that loop out, pull my yarn back down. And you don't want these chains real tight because you want to be able to work back into it when we come back down creating our next row. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so there's my first 10. And I will meet you back when we have 60. All right, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. So we should have a very nice consistent chain of 60 stitches. Now, what I want you to do is, since you're down now to 60, I want you to add 1 more chain. And then we're going to start coming back towards the end of our chain that we just created, making half double crochets into each chain as we go back. Now, a half double crochet is worked just like a single crochet, it just has an extra loop. So beginning in the second chain from the hook, remember this little loop on our hook does never count as a stitch. It is our working loop that allows us to create the stitches that we're working with. So starting in the second chain from the hook, from the hook, I want you to loop over I want you to take some yarn and just loop it over your hook. Now we're going to go into our chain, pull up some yarn, and now you will notice that you have 3 loops on your hook. Before, when we did a single crochet, we only had 2. Now we have 3. I want you to grab your yarn again, loop and pull through all 3, and that creates a half double crochet. Now this loop is a little big, so I'm going to go back and do that again. Hold my chains here and just pull that out. I let that get a little too messy, too big on me. And that happens. Nice teachable moment, because I'm sure some of you probably had the same problem. So I will hold this loop here so that doesn't happen again with the middle finger of my needle hand. Going to skip the first 2 chains, loop over with some yarn, work into that second chain from the hook. Now this is looking nicer. I have 3 loops, loop around, pull through all 3, and that is a half double crochet. Now I know you can't really tell much on the stitch, so let's do a few more and then we'll put our needle down and talk about the difference between it and the single crochet. So again, we're going to take our yarn, loop it over the hook, go to the next chain. Remember, our chains are these little top loops here, so we're going to go into that top loop, pull up some yarn, again 3 loops, yarn over, and pull through all 3 again, and there is our second half double crochet. Again, put yarn around your hook, go into the next chain, grab your yarn and pull it up, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through again, and there is my third half double crochet. Let's do a few more and then we'll stop and look at it. Yarn over, go into the next top loop, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, yarn over, go on the top of the next loop, yarn over, pull through, we have 3 loops, and pull through. Now can you start seeing, there's your little half double crochets. They have a little bit taller height than the single crochet, and as I said, it gives it just a little bit more depth, not quite as tight as a single crochet. So let's continue. Loop over into the next top loop of the chain, yarn over, pull up all 3, okay, yarn over, go on the top of the next loop, next chain, yarn over, pull through, there's our 3 loops, and pull through again. Now remember, it's okay if this is a little loose because it does lay down as you're moving along. Okay, yarn over, go into the next loop, yarn over, pull up, we have our 3 loops, yarn over, and finish out the stitch. Yarn over, go into the top of the next, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. All right. Now I'm going to just crochet here for a few more minutes and not say anything. So just watch. Now remember, this very first row on any project that you do is always going to take the longest because you're building your foundation. And I always like to stop and make sure that my stitches are nice and consistent, because this is going to be one of the edges of my project, and I want it to look nice and even across there. Make sure that the finish is going to be nice, so it doesn't bother me to take a little more time, be a little more patient. All right, I hope you have the hang of how to do this, because I'm going to leave you alone here for a little bit and let you continue on your own. And I will meet you at the end of the row. All right, I'm coming now to the end of my row. I hope that you have a nice, consistent row here working for you. All right. Okay, so let's finish out the row here. Now, this very last chain here that we started our chain with, we're still going to put a half double crochet in there. Now, it might be a little tight, but you can get it in there. Okay. And now this is what our row should look like. All right, in order to turn, we're going to chain one, and we're going to turn our work. So now our tail that we started our chain with should be over here on the right. Now this chain one that we just created is not going to count as anything. It's just to help me get started on the next row. Remember again too that this loop here on your hook does not count as anything either. It is just your working chain. So we're going to make more half double crochets. So again, we're going to loop over, and this very first stitch here from the last half double crochet, here's my loop that I'm working with. Here's the chain one that does not count. Remember, these little V's on top are our stitches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop over, and I'm going to go back into this very first stitch, which is the last stitch of the previous row. So we're going to loop over our hook, go in between, and go underneath both of those stitches there. Loop over. There's our 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through. And there is the first half double crochet of this second row. Do that again. Yarn over. Go underneath both of those stitches there that make the top of the stitch. 3 loops on our hook. We yarned over, pull through. Yarn over, go to the next one, go under both loops there of the top of the stitch. Yarn over, pull through. And now we're making our second row, and they should be stacking right on top of each other. And you can tell that it's working correctly by, look at this little post here of our stitch. See the little post there of our stitch? They should be standing on top of one another, and that's how you know that you're going into the correct area. It also helps you whenever you look to see, did you skip a stitch? Did you put too many stitches in top? Right now we're only putting 1 stitch on top of the one from the previous row. Later on we'll learn how to put multiple stitches in just 1 stitch. But for right now, we are just working on putting 1 half double crochet in each stitch from the previous row. Let me get some more yarn here. And we will continue this all the way back down to the beginning of your first row. Yarn over, go underneath both loops of that previous stitch. And again, you should be able to see how they're stacking up on top of each other. It's okay if this curls up a little bit. As we start making more rows, it will flatten out. I'm sure you might have noticed a little bit of curling when you were doing the first row, but like I said, it's okay. Loop over, go in under both of those two loops there, pull through. It's making a nice dense piece of material. So I will meet you at the end of this row. I'll jump back in here with you about 2 or 3 stitches from the end. All right, we're coming down to the end of row 2. I hope you didn't have any hiccups or have to do too much pulling out and starting over. All right. All right, now you should have one stitch that looks like it's curling up on itself. We're going to go ahead and go into that last stitch, and we're going to stop just a moment. I'll pull my thread up here for just a minute. So I want you to see what a nice texture that already these 2 rows here are creating. Should feel nice and squishy. That's the part that I like in making textiles with yarn. Now we should have still 60 stitches. So I'm going to count to make sure that I haven't made a boo-boo somewhere. And really it is a good idea at the end of each row, especially when you're just doing 1 stitch per row, to stop at the end of every row and count. That way you don't get so far into your project and you see that you've made a mistake and you don't know where it is, which causes you then to have to do a lot of frogging. And remember, frogging is where we rip out our stitches and start over. That is a very disheartening thing to have to do, and it does cause many beginners to just want to throw it away and stop. Well, we don't want you to do that, so let's go ahead and count to make sure that we still have 60 stitches, because that's what we started out with. So we're going to start right here, beginning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. So if you didn't get to 60, the thing that I would suggest first is for you to go along and make sure that you didn't miss a stitch. Because remember, I told you these should be stacking up on top of one another. Okay. Now if you skip the stitch, there will be a hole. or if you put 2 into the same stitch, there'll be a bunch up. Okay? All right, so let's make another row. Remember, we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and this, again, this chain does not count as anything. It's just to help me to get started. Give me my lift on the row for my stitch. Yarn over, go into that very first stitch there. Yarn over, should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through, and there is our first stitch. Yarn over, go into the second, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, go into the stitch, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through, and there we have our stitches. We're going again. I'm hoping that you are comfortable now in making your half double crochets. See the nice line and texture that it's giving? And you're also going to find that this helps to build your the height of your project much quicker than the single crochet did. And you're going to find too, if you compare this to the first project that you did, remember the little mats that we made when we were practicing our single crochets, you're going to find that this gives it just a little bit more squishiness, if that's a word, squishiness to your fabric than the single crochet did, because in each stitch we're adding just a little bit more yarn because of this loop that we are now using to create the half double crochet stitch. I'm going to skip over here just a little bit. When we do the single crochet, we only have just a little bit, see, just that little V there, whereas here with the half double crochet we have that extra loop in there, which gives us more dimension, number 1, in the stitch, but it also gives us a little bit more texture to the fabric, therefore making it softer. All right, so I want you to continue doing your half double crochets to the end of the row, and I will catch up there with you in a minute. All right, we are now coming to the end of our 3rd row. I have about 5 stitches left. Get some more yarn here. And yes, you'll be coming down to this last stitch here. And again, it may be just a little bit tight. And again, I'm going to stop a second and I'm going to count to make sure I still have 60 stitches, but it looks like everyone is lining up on top of each other like they're supposed to. So again, take a moment to count your stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40, 42, 44, 46, 48, 50, 52, 54, 56, 58, and 60. And this is just the top of my loop from making that last half double crochet. All right, we are ready to chain one. Let me go back in there and tighten that up a little bit. All right, we're ready to chain one, turn our work, and start again. Remember that chain one, and this loop here does not count as a stitch. Yarn over, go back in, 3 loops, turn. And folks, it's okay if you don't like the way that a stitch, saw how that one kind of fell apart on me. It's okay to start over. You know, if it's not looking consistent with the other ones, just go ahead and pull it out, start again. Just because you created the stitch doesn't mean it has to stay in there. All right. Now we are starting on row 4. I want you to make 10 rows. All right? This little project needs to have 10 rows of your half double crochets. So I will come back and see you at the end of 10 rows. All right, so hopefully you have your 10 rows, and you have what should look like a really nice long rectangle. So your project that goes along with your practicing the half double crochet, we're going to take this long rectangle now and we're going to make an ear warmer out of it. Now this will be for an adult size, but it is easily adjustable to do for children, for folks with a lot of hair. You might need to add 4 to 8 more stitches to it to accommodate folks with a lot of hair like I have. Mine usually have to run about 21 to 22 inches because I have so much hair and it's long. So now when I do that, I'll take the end that has the our tail on it from the beginning, and I want it on top. So I'm going to come over here. I pulled out a big old long loop here so that I could get this going for you. And I've already chained one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lay these 2 edges on top of one another, and we're going to use what's called a slip stitch and put it together. So working from this back side here, I'm going to come to the front, and I'm going to go right here in this very first corner stitch, and I'm just going to feed it in there a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to this little corner stitch here. Now these are your stitches that are at the end of each of your rows. I'm going to pull up my yarn, and now a slip stitch means I'm just going to pull that back through again. All right, I'm going to come over here, and just somewhere along the edge I'm going to go in. Now a lot of folks will go right here at this little piece here. I don't like to do that because over time it gets stretched. So I'll come in at the end of the row and grab both ends. Same over here, grab both ends. Get my rows lined up here. I'm going to grab my yarn, pull it through, and then pull it through my loop again. Makes a nice slip stitch. Now I'm going to come down to the end of this row here, go through those 2, come to this row, go through those 2, yarn over, pulled my thread through, and right through again. Okay, and I'm going to continue that all the way down, taking just a moment to make sure my rows are lining up. And you can tell when your rows are lining up just by the dips and divots. That's what I like to call them here along the edge. Now you can also do this with some thread. Take your yarn, cut off a big old chunk, and use your needle to do the same thing. But since I already have mine on my hook, I will do this instead. So again, I'm coming to the end of this row, picking up 2 loops, coming to the end of this row, picking up 2 loops, yarn over, pull it through, and pull it through the stitch again. And you don't have to go to the end of every single row, but since this is going to be a headband, I do like for it to be a little more secure. Now I don't pull this slip stitch real tight because I want it to remain square there on the edge. Coming down to the end of this next row, I think I'll go in right there and right there. Oops, lost it. And that happens, folks. Okay, and you can see I've done pretty good coming down here, keeping my edges together. Getting down here to this last corner, and I want to make sure that I get those corner stitches. Pull it through. There they are. I'm going to chain one more to tighten it up. Grab my scissors. I'm going to cut me a tail. Pull that through and tighten it off. Okay. Now let me show you what happens. I'm going to take this seam and put it to the inside. And it gives me this cute little loop. Let me find it here. But I'm not done yet, because once I do this little twist, I will take my 2 tails here, lay them on top of each other, and pull this where it will pull it together. Loop it back around. And tie it again. Cut this, Maureen, and take it back to where you slip stitched it together. Thank goodness for slip stitching. Lacey, it's okay, baby girl. No, no, go lay down. Lace. Go lay down. All right, now that we've gotten to the end here, I'm going to fold. I'll have to get with you in just a few minutes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these two ends and we're going to stitch them together using what's called a slip stitch. So what we do is we're going to take our loop, feed it, all right, so I hope that what you see that you have now is a nice long rectangular piece. Now I've cut off a really long tail, and what we're going to do is we're going to take these two ends, put them together, and we're going to make an ear warmer with our swatch that we just created using the half double crochet stitch. Now folks, this makes a really nice textured ear warmer. Look at that, what you've created. You can make this as long as you need. Now remember, we use 60 stitches for a 20-inch piece. It's very adjustable as to the number of stitches you want to use, how many rows you want to make. If you're making it for a child, I probably would only use 8 rows. For an adult, 10 rows is very sufficient. If you want to make it wider, you can. The 20 inches is good for a normal size adult head. Now, I have a lot of hair, so I normally will crochet about 64 stitches, chains, before I start doing my half double crochet rectangle here. But again, you know, playing with it, you should be able to tell if you're making it for your girls, for selling at a craft fair. 60 inches is normally a really, 60 stitches is a good one to work with. Now, if you're going to do it for children, I'm going to tell you that about anywhere from 48 to 52 is also a really good indicator for sizes for girls from about, say 6 to 12, 14 years of age. I wouldn't go any smaller than 40, and that ought to be good enough for a baby, you know, a little girl, say from about a year to 4 or 5 years of age. And for her, I probably wouldn't do any more than maybe 5 or 6 rows. All right, so let's talk about how we're going to put this together. As I said, when I tied off here at the end, now this is my tail end that I started with, but at the end of my last row, I just cut me off a really long tail. I'm going to take this and thread it into my needle here. Some of you may have those threaders that helps you to thread your yarn through your needles. I couldn't find mine this morning. There we go. Now I'm just going to show you a simple way on how to put this together. What I do is I just go through and working from the back to the front. I always pick up 2 loops from both sides, and I'll pull this through. Now I'm going to do that again just to lock down this corner. Alright, and then I just work from back to front, making a loop. Making sure, now I'm not going to do this real tight because we do want a little bit of stretch here. Because remember, this is going to go around your head. And I always try to pick up 2 loops of yarn from both ends to make sure I have a good catch on my seams and my stitches don't come out. And I like doing this with these edges, especially for my ear warmers, because it makes a nice seam. And my thread just came out, so give me just a minute. Let me get that stuck back in there. My needle doesn't come unthreaded at least once every time I am hemming something. I count that as a good day, folks, let me tell you. Okay, coming to the end here in just a second. Now I will tell you that there are many different ways in which to finish off your little ear warmer here. And again, I'm going to tie this off with an extra loop here to make sure my end stays secure. Now let me show you. See how nice that is here? Now watch whenever I turn it over. Okay, look at that. Makes a nice little edging there, or seam there. Now, you can leave this just like this and wear it. But what I like to do is to pull my yarn out there, is I will take and just kind of pleat this. Yeah, let's say 1, 2, fold over, 1, 2, fold over. Make a nice little sandwich there with my pleating, and I'll take my yarn here and I'll just go through there 3 or 4 times. Go through all, let's see, this is coming from this side, I guess I'll go through here. I didn't want a big old loop, and I'll make sure I go all the way through it. Go through there again, kind of come up through the middle here. Go through here. Go back through. I'll do this. I'll go from this side to this side and then back again. And here I am back up at the top. Now I'm just going to lay this down for a minute. Look at that. Now if you wanted, you could take a little piece of ribbon and tie around here in a different color or maybe a pattern. You could leave it just like this. You could put a nice little button if you had one there. You know, we always end up with extra buttons. I'm going to go ahead and tie this off here. I'm going to come right back up here. Just loop it through there a little bit. And now, in order to hide my tail, pull this one out just a little. How did you get caught? Oh, there's a knot there on the end. Let's just snip that off, pull you back through. Okay, so now I'm just going to hide my tails here by just going back and forth a little bit through my stitches. You know, we talked about this on the little placemat that we made with our single crochets. You always want to hide your ends, and I like to go through 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it's not going to come out, because there's nothing worse than spending all that time on a project and you don't secure your ends well enough. They get loose, come out, and the next thing you know, your project is raveling. I don't know where that red thread came from. That was from the manufacturer, and I was afraid to try to pull it out, so I just decided to leave it. Adds a little character. Take this one. This is my starting tail. I'm just going to go here in the back, find me a couple of little areas in which to hide her through there. Remember, it doesn't take but just a couple of stitches. You just want to hide your yarn. Come back through this way. Okay, you don't like that one. There we go. And one more little time back. Some folks go 1, some folks go 2. I just do what I was taught. And there you have it. Very nice, easy, really cute. You can make this out of multiple colors, variegated when you start getting a little more comfortable and doing your stitches and feeling things. And look at that. Isn't that nice? I love making these for my nieces. I love making them for some of my adult friends. It's really nice to add in with, say, a new little sweater that you bought. You want to add something that's got a little bit different touch to it. And as I said, you can add a button, you can get a piece of ribbon, you know, just to go. I'm going to use this here. Get yourself a little piece of ribbon, maybe in a different color. See how that can tie that off? Or like I said, just get a button, put on the top. That's normally what I do, or I get a little brooch of some sort and tack it on there. But there you go. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial with the half double crochet. If you did, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, I would certainly enjoy seeing your name added to my subscribers list. And be sure to hit the notification bell so that you always are notified of when I have a new tutorial or a shout out for some happy mail, yarn reviews, that sort of thing. Again, thank you so much for being with me and learning how to do not only the half double crochet stitch, but this cute little project to go along with it. I love you all, and remember, be safe, be kind to one another, and be the light for someone out there in the darkness today. because you never know, it might be your light that they need to see. See you next time.